Hey everyone. Hi Virgo. Oh, shoot. Alright, anyone new to Opal Oracle? Sorry, I just washed my hair, when it's too clean. Or you love clean. It feels good, but sometimes it doesn't do exactly what you want. Anyway, Virgo, welcome to mid-month. Welcome to Opal Oracle if you're new. Now, before we begin, I'm doing the same spread as I did in October. So, 5 cards. One is what is that you are desiring, or what it is that you want, what it is that you need, because they are different. What's helping, what's hindering, what the overall result of this time frame will be, what the overarching energy is, and then I also picked an extra card from the Mary L. Tarot, and you received the Nine of Swords. Now, in her deck, it's a bit different. I want you to kind of look at this. This card is going to represent, and we're going to pick one for each time frame until this Venus transit is done, because it's important. It's about love, Who doesn't want love? But this is what we'll be learning, the energy of what you'll be going through and learning about, which, as you can tell, this is a bit different. Focus in on, for those of you who can see, be grateful. Don't mind my car, my buddy's borrowing it. She's old. But what is it that you focus on? What part is it that you see? Now, I'd like to talk about this just for a second, because the Nine of Swords, you rule all the nines, okay? Stay there, please. It's okay. You rule all the swords. Interesting. We'll take that. Mercury, right? You're the hermit. You rule it. You rule the mind, if you want. You're in charge of your mind. You can make 9 swords can be a lot. That is a lot of mental power, okay? And it's all about which one. There are many towers in this card. I see that when you're starting to also understand more about the power of your own mind, and how you can take 9 swords and do something really positive with them, or you can take 9 swords and do something really negative with them. You can be more in the shadow or more in the positive. Either one will teach you something, so there's no wrong way to go about it, but there's something about understanding your ability within the mind and how that affects your heart, how that affects your ability to express and share and receive and give love. Now, what you want, I actually haven't showed anybody else. You have the King of Wands. What do you need? Ace of Pentacles. Those cards are good together. What's helping? Queen of Pentacles. Awesome. What's hindering? Judgment. And what's the overall, what you'll be learning, which is a card very much about learning. I like that you, the overarching energy also is another pentacle, 4 of Pentacles. So, and we actually have 4 pentacles on the board. It was exactly 4 minutes. I said it 3 times, right? That's 12. That's that's your opposite, Pisces. So there's something that I sense is coming together more about this 9 of Swords. Okay, let me tune in a second. Well, what you want is to be more in charge of something. Maybe a little bit more passionate about something. Like when you please, like really being in a position of handling it in the most exuberant, expressive way, right? The King of Wands is probably, I'd say, the least serious out of all of them, right? There's a possibility where, like, he would take this Nine of Swords and turn it into something spectacular, right? He would focus in and have a different understanding about it, whatever it is that he feels like is blocking, and use it to his advantage, right? Use his experiences to his advantage. Now, what you need, I guess what you need to see that something new is happening, and that it's very important, because he is turning his back on it, what you want and what you need. They're going in completely different directions, okay? It doesn't mean that they can't exist in the same space and time. Apparently they are. They're very close to one another. But there's something about responsibility attached to this, where you feel like, for a lot of you, it's where Saturn is in your chart. I just keep thinking about, there's a doe that hangs out in the backyard, and she actually has two fawns. They're old enough now that they don't have spots anymore. They're starting to become their own thing, right? They're maturing. But they really take it easy, you know, deer. They're very graceful. They're very quiet. I think deers are actually a lot like Virgos in a way. You know, they're very calculated. They're very, they're always considering what it is that's going around them. They're very cautious when they do a lot of things. But they're also very easily kind of, and don't take this in offense, but I'm just attaching this because I kept seeing this image. It's like deer can become very spooked very easily, but that's because they've been hunted before. Like, they remember. It's almost like a hereditary memory. So maybe this is something that you're starting to figure out, that maybe, because what I sense with this Nine of Swords also is you receive some sort of mental programming through your mother's side of the family. And I heard, for a lot of you, you kind of wish you could give more. You could give kind of a, how do I want to say it? Like the way that your dad gives a shit about something or doesn't give a shit about something, even whether at whatever point you thought that was or wasn't acceptable, but where there's something casual about your dad, sort of like pish-posh's responsibility in some way or another, and not necessarily making the same action or choices that he's made. This is very interesting, but that you take that hereditary skill and apply it in a different way. Again, you want Nine of Swords, like the traditional, that's a whole bunch of victim mentality. Right now, being a Virgo, I would say that there's a reason wherever Virgo is in your chart. You know, it's a very serious sign. But part of your lesson is to not be so serious, right? Because the deer, yes, they're aware, and yeah, they're a little on guard at times, but it's only because they actually hear something that they know comes from something that sets them off, to remind them that it was something that hurt them last time, right? But it doesn't mean that it's going to happen again. It's about taking a minute, because when deer get in tune, like, say they're just grazing and chilling out and doing their own thing, and then all of a sudden they're like, I hear something, and they freeze, right? Now, trauma can do that, can make you freeze a bit, but how you solve trauma like that, and whatever level it may be, like just checking in and being like, is that situation actually going on, or am I responding from a way that's habitual, right? Because you rule habits, you know, because the thing is say a hunter was there for whatever reason, or something was really trying to actually hurt that deer, or, you know, hurt its family, right? They're very protective of their family. They're, you know, it's a leash of deer, which if you think of a leash, they're all attached, you know, they're very family oriented. So the thing is when a deer wants to go, it goes. And nothing can catch a deer. Not really. Maybe a coyote could catch a weak deer, or wolf could catch a weak deer, but they'd never do that just to hurt it. It would do it because there was something wrong with it. Interesting analogy. Obviously, deer is important to you. I'll put something below. Now, what's helping you? Queen of Pentacles. Awesome. Well, it shows me that for most of you, what's helping is that you're really starting to understand that you hold your own stability in your hand. You know, you hold your stability in your hand. You hold your stability in your hand. You hold your stability in your hand. You hold your ability to feel good about yourself. That you hold your self-worth in your hand. No one can give that to you. I think you're starting to really, really get that. Okay? You also hold, like, I see with all these pentacles here, for most of you, your money is fine. If you're tight in it for some reason or another, or you feel like you are, then maybe a coyote could catch a weak deer, or wolf could catch a weak deer, but they'd never do that just to hurt it. It would do it because there was something wrong with it. Interesting analogy. Obviously, deer is important to you. I'll put something below. Now, what's helping you? Queen of Pentacles. Awesome. Well, it shows me that for most of you, what's helping is that you're really starting to understand that you hold your own stability in your hand. You know, you hold your stability in your hand. You hold your stability in your hand. You hold your stability in your hand. You hold your ability to feel good about yourself. That you hold your self-worth in your hand. No one can give that to you. I think you're starting to really, really get that. Okay? You also hold, like, I see with all these pentacles here, for most of you, your money is fine. If you're tight in it for some reason or another, or you feel like you are, then we got to check in on your spending habits, you know. Most people, we live in a very privileged time, you know. If you really think about it, life's much, much different now than it was. I'm not saying there aren't things that are wrong with the world, but that's not really the point. Most people don't have an excuse. If you have an excuse to why something can't happen, you're probably living in the past, right? And we've all felt like that. I mean, I felt like that. No diss, right? It was exactly 13 minutes. That's the death card. Scorpio's generally really connected to you. It's interesting you don't have any cups here. We're also coming into Scorpio season. Venus also is in Scorpio, which is very serious, okay? You may be doing a little bit of backtracking too, and understanding, like, with this Nine of Swords, and this is like, there's going to be certain things that help you to understand to, like, what is the overarching energy of my own psyche, as well as my heart. Like, what am I still holding in my heart chakra that affects my ability to understand the power of my own mind. You are ruled by Mercury, right? But if you let Mercury get out of the way or have too much of it, then what happens is you get Mercury poisoning in a sense. And that is when I think your hindrance becomes having inappropriate judgment about what the situation really is. Okay? And then I heard the word trauma again. So maybe really checking in with that. Also, Mercury in Scorpio is happening. Venus in Scorpio. We're coming into Scorpio season. This is all very much about, well, it's about a lot of things that are really deep. The end of Jupiter in Scorpio is also coming to a close. But overall, Scorpio is very powerful, and we've been talking about it a lot for those of you who have been here this year, and it can express about, like, we're coming into Scorpio season. This is all very much about, well, it's about a lot of things that are really deep. The end of Jupiter in Scorpio is also coming to a close. But overall, Scorpio is very powerful, and we've been talking about it a lot for those of you who have been here this year, and it can express about, like, kind of like psychology of things, you know, and you're such a thinker, so it's important for you to, I guess also a message is, it's important for you to know that you are safe and loved and protected. You also need to understand what your grounding skills are, okay? Like, how do you ground yourself? How do you take up the responsibility of grounding yourself, your own mind, etc.? Okay? Of course. The bottom of the deck, we actually had the Page of Cups, and beneath that, there's Scorpio's card. This is actually Pisces, but here's a bunch of water. Okay? I also see this as, like, a real shift in your inner child. Also, like, what is your creative process, Virgo? I know, because look, serious, right? Serious. The only things that really aren't serious here, this can even be serious, right? Because you're like, oh, I gotta till the garden, I gotta put in these seeds, I gotta do all this and that, I'm thinking about next season, da-da-da-da-da. This is not serious, this is not so serious. This is kind of fun. You know, because I sense here also, with all these pentacles, is that you're ready for the winter, right? Wherever you live, you're ready for the winter. So and if what you really need is this Ace of Pentacles and you feel like you don't actually have it yet, which I sense most of you do have it, you could have another new thing coming, or you feel like you need something new. You already have what it is that you need, though. So I guess you got to ask yourself, well, I heard two things. One is what is it that you already have that you feel like you need? And number two is, if you feel like really you need this, like say you need a job or whatever, but it shows me you're fine. For the most part, at least, like, your bases are covered, right? But if you want this, then you got to go out and get it. You got to take what it is. Like, you really want to be the King of Wands? Well, then turn around and recognize, like, go get it. You know, like, don't look into the past, look into the future, right? This is going right into the future. You know, paying attention, again, which nine of swords do you want? All right. My loveliest, and I've been saying this all month and I don't care, my homegirl Danielle, which I'm very grateful for, sent me this beautiful book called The Warrior of Light. It's the author who wrote The Alchemist. I like the way it feels and smells, and I just like real books, you know, real tangible things. You can hug it, you know, you can fall asleep with it on your chest, like, you can smell it. Anyway, Virgo, something about that, right? All this earthly, too, like, really being in touch with what it is that you have, okay? And being a part of that. And I feel like that feel, smell, touch, all this, That's Taurus. That's the one that comes before you. Like, how can you be more in tune with your five senses? That could be another way for you to ground yourself. Like, really, don't just think about it, right? Don't get all wrapped up in your head about it. Like, no, like, if you have people around you, love them, hold them, hug them, you know? Be more touchy-feely, I guess, than maybe you would. Be more in tune with the physical things that you actually have, because we're so grateful. We should be so grateful to have what we have. Now, Virgo. This is so interesting. This one, you're the third one that received this. So if you watch the other videos and it's a repeat, well, I guess this message is very important. It says, a warrior of the light is reliable. He makes few mistakes. He sometimes thinks he is more important than he really is, but he does not lie. When people gather around the fire, he talks to his friends, male and female. He knows that his words are stored in the memory of the universe, like a testimony of what he thinks. The warrior asks himself, why do I talk so much when often I am incapable of carrying out everything that I say? His heart replies, when you defend your ideas in public, then you have to make an effort to live accordingly. It is because he believes... Chester! Freaking dog. Stay, okay? It's okay. It is because he believes that he is what he says he is, that the warrior ends up becoming precisely that. You know, what's that saying? I'll see it when I believe it. And of course, as the other signs I mentioned, it's really, there's a lot here about, well, understanding the power of words, and also doing what you say and saying what you do. Now, of course, this is for yourself, it's your reading, but it also relates to, you know, really appreciate those people that you have in your life that do what they say and say what they do. And I heard, don't try to pick them apart too much. Somebody else got this too, but it's Venus in Scorpio is like Mercury in Scorpio. There can be a lot of brash, raw communication, okay? And it's important to know that, well, don't burn any bridges that aren't necessary, okay? You know, maybe part of this, I sense for you, maybe this Venus retrograde is also touching base with folks that are connected to you, that you've sort of lost touch with, and also knowing and thinking about, like, there's a reason why certain things aren't in your life anymore, you know, and that what's happening now is all happening because of the things that stopped being a part of your life, that are no longer around in your fire circle, you know. Sure, you can still love them, but things change, right? That's what maturity is. That's what growing up is accepting that, right? Who we are, no matter what we look like, or where we come from, or, you know, whoever that may be. You know, because that hindrance with the judgment there, like, I guess, if and when, you know, maybe you want to check in with yourself too, and you know, when you are thinking about things, I mean, you tend to kind of, I mean, it depends what's in your chart, but you tend to think before you speak for the most part. But you also hold a lot in. And when you do finally say it, you say it so square that, and so much that people are like, it's intense, you know. So I heard, take it easy, because whenever we judge other people, what we're actually doing is saying that about ourselves, right? This is what maturity is understanding that. And I know you get that, but I guess that's something that needs to be known, because this could also be, you know, something you're dealing with. And I do see, like I said, like thinking like your mom, you know, but understanding now, like those kinds of things, like, and then I heard knowing what to keep and what to let go of, you know, in your heart specifically. All right. Love you so much. Take care.